Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So don't worry, I only am given 10 minutes. So this will be short and sweet. It's a story which some of you might know. In ancient times, there was a king in India. And he was a very wealthy king. He had palaces and jewels and silks and dancing girls, very wealthy. But he was a very devout king. And he was very devoted to the Dharma. And he had a guru. And his guru was just a very simple, ascetic monk who only possessed his wooden begging bowl. So one time the king and his guru, they were sitting in the garden, and his guru was teaching the Dharma to the king. Meantime, his servants came running and said, "Oh Maharaj, great king, come quickly, quickly, your majesty, the whole palace is on fire. Everything's burning, come." And the king said, "Don't bother me. You deal with it. I am with my guru studying Dharma. You deal with the palace." And the guru jumped up and said, "What do you mean? My begging bowl's in the palace." And so this is the point. It's not what we own, but it's whether what we own owns us or we own it. That is the problem. Material possessions themselves are innocent. They are not to blame. But it's our grasping and attachment to those things which is the problem. So, if sitting here listening to the Dharma, somebody told you, you got a text message saying, "Quickly come back, your whole apartment is on fire," what would you do? The question is, what comes first in our life? I'm not saying that you shouldn't go back and deal with your apartment, but in the end, what is at the center of our life? You know, are our spiritual principles at the center, or our worldly grasping mind? This is what we have to ask. It's not how much we own, it's not how successful we are or we are not that makes us genuine practitioners. It's how much we grasp at what we have and how much we identify with what we have. Do we think that because we have a Porsche or because we have some high level in our firm or because we have a bigger house than anybody in our family, that makes us better people? That somehow we identify with these labels. This is what we have to ask ourselves. What are we identifying with? And how important? Do we really believe that getting more and more will bring us more and more happiness? I think that Tracey, she's going to speak about how that doesn't work like that. It really doesn't, because our genuine happiness and satisfaction is an inner quality, which comes from the integrity of our lives and from developing those qualities of mind which bring happiness, like kindness, thoughtfulness, honesty. These qualities make the mind peaceful, and then genuine happiness wells up within inside us. It's not contingent on our external factors. I found this for myself. When I was living in the caves, up in the mountains, I had nothing. I mean, the space was about this big. Clearly there was no running water, there was no electricity. In the winter, we were covered in snow for months and months. Outwardly, it looked extremely worse than being in a prison. And yet, I was so happy. I remember it as being the happiest time of my life. I felt very inwardly fulfilled, very inwardly satisfied. And later, when I went to visit my mother, who was living as a housekeeper in a very fancy apartment in Knightsbridge. I don't know, I mean, there were 3 televisions and the whole place was very luxurious, but in the middle of London, I felt bored. And, I mean, that's my problem. I shouldn't have felt bored. I should have felt happy and satisfied wherever I was, but in fact, I was bored. And I recalled thinking, well, always remember this, that genuine happiness does not depend on external circumstances. So what we need in this society which is telling you more, 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 you become more of a person the more you have, is to develop also those qualities of contentment and appreciation. Look at what you already have and be so grateful. Because around the world, many people don't even know where their next meal is coming from. Whereas most of you, your only problem is which restaurant we're going to eat at. But I come from India, and many, many people, they don't even have enough food for the next day to feed their family. So think of how much you have already. How many ladies, how many clothes do you already own? Do you really need more? Most people already have more than enough clothing to last for one lifetime. Probably enough clothing for many lifetimes. Why more and more and more? Why not use that money for something meaningful? Develop contentment, a joy in what you already have, and an appreciation. And the ability to give, to share, to get joy in giving rather than always in receiving. So I guess my message is, I only probably have already run over my 10 minutes. My message basically is that it's not things which are the problem. It's our relationship to things which is the problem. As the Buddha said, the source of our unhappiness, of our dissatisfaction, our dukkha, is grasping and craving. It's not the things which are the problem. It's our attitude, our unhealthy attitude. If we have a healthy attitude, which appreciates things but is able to let them go if they leave, then there's no problem. But it's when we hold on to these things, thinking that on this depends my happiness and my satisfaction, that's when we're in deep trouble. Because the more and more that we accumulate, it's just filling up a black hole. It never can be satisfied. As the Buddha said, greed and grasping is like salty water. The more we drink, the thirstier we get. And wandering around your malls shows me this. Full of people with everything in the world, and yet they still think that if only they had that, whatever, that would somehow give them inner satisfaction. But it doesn't. Because the more you drink, the thirstier you get. So why not reverse the trend? Even as an experiment. Practice appreciating what you already have, feeling content with where you are, and a joy in sharing and giving and making others happy through what you yourself have acquired. I think one of the questions is, how much should you give? Well, you give whatever your heart tells you. I don't think there's a set price. But really, Singapore is a treasure island because it not only has great material wealth, it also has the wealth of the Dharma. And at the end of your life, I think you will find that the wealth of the Dharma was much more meaningful for you than all your material wealth, which after all we cannot take with us anyway. What you can take with you is how you have dealt with your mind. Because wherever you go, your mind goes with you. And so please, all of you, spend more time on cultivating the inner qualities. Those are the true treasures, along with your external wealth. Otherwise, you will end up with lots and lots of cars and inwardly feel very impoverished and wonder, was that the only meaning to my life, to get yet another Porsche? Thank you.
Thank you, Jetsunma, for that illuminating address. Now, may we invite our second keynote speaker, His Eminence Gyalwa Dokhampa, on stage, please. His Eminence, please.
Singapore for organizing these, and all of you for participating. And I truly enjoy these kind of dialogues with other great masters, because every time I always believe that every individual have gone in their own life ups and downs, and they learn some way to deal with these up and down, and they have their own wisdom, which everybody can be benefited. So whenever I do these kind of talk with a scientist, with a businessman, woman, actress, I always receive some knowledge and wisdom from them, for which I am very grateful. So this is something I truly enjoy. Though I myself may be the least of the knowledgeable, but I enjoy this in terms of what I learned. And even though we have kind of two Buddhist masters, Venerable Jetsunma has already spoken, so I want to approach it from a little bit kind of a different angle. Because Buddha Shakyamuni is so kind. Some people think that Buddhism is very complicated, because there's Theravada, Mahayana, Vajrayana. Within Mahayana also we have the Pure Land, the Zen, and so kind of complicated. We just want some simple thing, just say yes. Everybody dress same, eat same, say the same thing. And ultimately, if you study the Buddhism deeply, you will find that ultimately it's the same. But the fact that it is different doesn't make Buddhism complicated, it actually makes it more beautiful. Because all of us are not same. If we are all same, today all of you guys will be wearing green t-shirt, white pant, all will be same, but not. We are all different. So Buddha, in his wisdom, infinite wisdom, gave us different teachings according to the different needs. So that's why even if 10 Buddhist master comes, I will still feel that we will learn 10 different wisdoms, equally precious, equally respected. For today's kind of the touching on today's subject, the reason when the Drukpa Singapore proposed this and said, what do you feel about it? I said, it's a very good idea. Because somebody, a friend of mine in the business circle in the Hong Kong, they told me that many of their wealthy friends, either they don't like to be Buddhist, because they think that if you're a Buddhist, you have to live in poverty. Buddhism and wealth is something against. Or they are unhappy, wealthy Buddhist. Because they feel that I should actually be non-attached. I should not have attachment to my car, my wealth, yet I can't help it. I love my wealth so much. So I am kind of a conflicted Buddhist. Conflicted with what I have, unhappy, trying to be a good Buddhist, yet I can't. So kind of angry with oneself. At the same time, when other people are driving, kind of having wealth, very attached. I should not do like that. You should not do like that. That he should not do like that. One should not do like this. Should. We want to improve everybody else, except ourselves. And spiritual transformation is not about looking at others. It's about looking at ourselves. What can I do to transform myself? It's not about you make everybody else beautiful, you will become beautiful. This is not the spiritual that we can taught. So that's why when this topic came up, I was actually quite interested. I found it I thought, yes, since there are different types of people in the world, it might be benefited. So my own kind of the understanding, limited understanding from the Buddhist perspective, Buddhist teachings, is that from the Buddhist point of view, like Jetsunma said, wealth itself is very innocent. It's neither negative nor positive from the Buddhist point of view. It can be used positively, you can help so many people, or you can use to kill thousands of people. You can use it, it is a tool. It is like the iPhone and the computer. You can use it for Dharma purpose, Facebook, like the way you guys are here, for the Dharma purpose, or I can use it for, we can use it for, there's a big dance, 2000, New Year Eve's party, probably more people will come. So it can be used for any purpose. And the wealth itself, if you ask, does a Buddhist reject wealth itself because it is a wealth, it has to be rejected? I don't think so. I don't think the Buddhists will say that if you're wealthy, you have to reject your wealth. You have to live in poverty. And that is the only way to practice Dharma. I don't think that Buddhists will say. I don't think that is the view. Rather, Buddhists will say that even if you are driving a Porsche, even if you have the most wealthy person, you should be humble. That Buddha Dharma will say. What is the meaning of humbleness? Immediate idea of humbleness is don't drive, Porsche car. Don't wear the Gucci bag. Be humble, if possible, wear very, like normal clothes. Drive normal, if possible, walk. Like we did in Sri Lanka 1 month. At the kind welcome of the Sri Lankan monks and government. That's humbleness, yes. As soon as you are in the nice car, nice dress, you are not humble, you are proud. That is very subjective. That may or may not be true. Essence of, because if just by being in poverty, if you are spiritual, everybody in the poor country is enlightened by now. Many are without no clothes at all. They are walking each and every day. They will be going barefoot. So they'll be enlightened by now. They'll be happy all the time. Or if it's enlightenment spiritual has to do with the wealth, then again the same. Everybody in the wealthy country will be enlightened. They'll all become Buddhas. So it doesn't necessarily have to do with the objects. So what does humbleness really mean? Humbleness can mean many things, but from my understanding is you have to respect others. How do you respect others? By not falsely believing, creating some image in yourself that we are better than others because I have a Porsche, because I have a bank balance. I am better than others. So if you have that kind of pride, what do? I don't respect your wish. I won't even give you 5 minutes of my time. You are nobody. You drive in a Porsche car, okay, you are like me, I'll give you time. Yeah, so you are disrespecting. From disrespecting comes pride. From disrespecting comes lack of understanding, lack of caring, lack of compassion. So the disrespect comes because of the pride. Pride. So pride is, from my understanding, is the disrespect by believing that one is greater. So for example, one of my wealthy friends, my family is kind of the very close. They told me that sometimes I believe there are certain clubs in Singapore, and to be a member of that costs you millions of money. And the reason why people become of that club is because that gives you a status symbol that you are more special than other human beings. You are, because we have no other way to show how special we are. We have no wings, no halo around our things. So we need to kind of uplift ourselves through such things. If that is our motivation to buy a Porsche, then definitely better not. They better not buy a Porsche, because the pride will become bigger and bigger and very difficult. Then you have to change the Porsche all the time. The moment your competitor has a new Porsche, again have to buy a new Porsche. And you won't be enjoying your Porsche at all, because you will be always checking, am I the latest? What does my competitor have? My competitor has 2 Porsche, I must, buy 2 Porsche. So you will not be enjoying your wealth at all. So from my understanding, it is whether you are wealthy, if you're because of your good karma, you are fortunate. Yes, you can enjoy your Porsche without being pride, without thinking that you are special. You are special because you have a Porsche. That pride definitely should not be there. By Porsche itself, good or bad, it's a very kind of it depends on individuals how they perceive it. And actually, the fact that nowadays we consider Porsche to be good is very much, in a way, very much illusioned, very much a conceptual. As I always say, fashion, status is very much within the mind. It's not really out there. In these days, generation time, if you drive a Porsche, Gucci bag or whatever, you are considered successful, wealthy. But 100 years ago, how do the rich people do? They go on a horse, 10 horses, Arabian stallions. Nowadays, the rich people, successful people go on a horse. Everybody will laugh at them. Why? Because the concept has changed. Horse has not changed. Horse, still the Arabian stallions are there. And if you, in this time, it is the concept of our conceptual mind has changed of what is, status, happiness, it's successful, not successful. It's very much within the mind. So there's no need to be that proud also, even if you have a, Porsche or wealthy. So what? It doesn't have to be that much, kind of thing. And the second kind of the point that I would like to kind of share is that modern society has the tendency to kind of, through maybe the media or through kind of implication, indirect implication, gives us a kind of idea that in order for us to be happy, we all have to look like movie star. Very clear skin, like almost, in the olden days it was if you have a beautiful face is enough. Now it's not. Face, feet, top to hair to kind of, even the eyebrows has to be perfect. So a lot of job nowadays. So of course a lot of business, I guess, also. But that's why I heard nowadays, when it takes a lot of time to prepare for dinner and all of that. I heard of that. So, and that kind of concept is there, that we all have to be, look like a movie star. And we all have to become, millionaires and all. Then only you'll be happy. Every time in the television or something, your image of happy comes. Always looks like a very beautiful, very wealthy. In the television, in movies, I hardly see, like a kind of poor people or middle class kind of, looking happy. And I don't see much. Usually, every advertisement is about beautiful men and women, very wealthy, and they're very happy. The kind of stress behind it, kind of the sacrifice behind, they usually doesn't show about it. So that gives us, maybe to you guys it's okay, because I think you guys are quite mature, knows the world. But usually kind of in the school children, because I go to a lot of schools and colleges, I always tell them that this is unachievable. Not if all of us are not going to look like movie star at all. And by some miracle, if we did, we will no longer be beautiful. For example, just a month ago, we had a talk in Malaysia with one supermodel, model from, I think she's Singapore also. What's her name? I cannot remember. So anyway, Benny Chong, the model who worked in Singapore, and Bernie Chan. So I was just example showing to her that the reason why she is considered a model is that we are all not beautiful like her. If we are all beautiful like her, she will no longer be a model. Why? She looks like us. What is so special about it? And somebody whom we right now consider to be ugly, that will be the supermodel. So unique. That's why throughout the generation, the beauty of concept of the beauty has changed so much. Look at the history. So that is, we are kind of caught up in a very kind of a strange trap of our own making. First of all, we can't be very beautiful all the time. If we do manage to become beautiful, we are no longer beautiful. All of us cannot become millionaires and billionaires. If we do, we will no longer be wealthy. Because everybody is a millionaire. For example, compared to, 1 year ago, I was reading a magazine in Kuala Lumpur. It said that nowadays, millionaires don't feel like a millionaire because the inflation has caught up so much. The $1 million doesn't make has no value. So that's why sometimes I wonder that very developed countries, they say they work so that you will become wealthy, but you have to, in order to do that, you have to sacrifice your health so much. Like there's a saying by one great master that I think I did say a few days ago that he was asked, what do you find most strange thing in the world? He said the human beings, because they sacrifice their health in order to gain wealth, and they spend their wealth recuperating their health. They live as if they are never going to die, and they die having never lived. So similarly, like a lot of sacrifice needed to be millionaire, let's say. But when you do finally millionaire, you say, now I can retire. Unless you become very, very wealthy, I don't know. Inflation costs up so much, gone up so much. Your million doesn't have the value that was 10 years ago. But in the process, like the Henry David Thoreau said, one very thing is, the price of doing anything is the amount of life you spend for it. So you have spent 10 years of your life, sacrifice so much. Time with your family, your own happiness, be so much. Is it really worth it? So anyway, like compared to people in a very poor country, everybody in Singapore is millionaire. Billionaire, multi times over, from their perspective. Do we all feel like that? It depends on all individual. Whether you look up or whether you look down. Even if the millionaires themselves, whether they look up billionaire, they probably feel poor. Whether they look down, maybe they feel rich, but usually we don't look down. We always kind of look up. When we do the party yatras, the walking pilgrimage, Sri Lanka this time was very wonderful because the government was very kind and mostly not much mountain. But in Ladakh, when we had to climb the mountains which are so steep and so high, 5,500 meters, that when you kind of go up, there's a joke saying that when you look at that mountain, your head falls off. It's so steep. So then, when we climb this mountain, it is so discouraging. Because from the down, it looks like I will never reach the top. How can I ever? My 2 feet, how can it ever reach up? So that time, we learned a trick from the local people. They said that when you are climbing up, never look up, look down. Then you feel, oh, I have walked quite a lot. At that time, I started down there. So you feel very encouraged to walk up. Similarly, in our life, instead of thinking what I'm going to achieve tomorrow or day after, if we can look down a little bit, what we have in terms of wealth, in terms of family, in terms of loved one, good health, I think we will be a little bit, I think, more encouraged. We can go up if you want to, if that's what you want, why not? But it should not, if we cannot appreciate what we have right now, even if you go up, it should be the same. Then you want to go up, and the life will be finished. So with this kind of context in the mind, since I do live most of the time in Bhutan, I do come from Bhutan, I must say that the Bhutan's concept of the gross national happiness does make a sense. If you think in a spiritual terms of value, if you think development is only key, GNH doesn't make sense. It's a rubbish. If you think only economical development, then GNH is rubbish. There's no point discussing about it. But if you believe that, then the Bhutanese concept of the GNH, which is based on Buddhist philosophy, does make a lot of sense. They say that everybody needs material wealth, that's for sure. You need at least what they said was a home of yourself. Because when you have a certain home, you have a sense of security. And home, I don't think they mean like a lone home like modern world. Down in the Bhutan and all of this, they don't have that much concept of loan very much. Rather, they can save and then they buy. And anyway, kind of a secure home, and then a secure work, and then ability to provide your family to extent. That much you need. Every government recognizes that. But that's so they say like 50% of your effort should go into material things, money, house, and so on. And then the 30% should be towards, 20% I think should be towards your family. Because the happiness comes also from family. If you don't have time to share your wealth with your family, human being happiness is very much dependent on others. What do human beings define happiness as? Love, respect, care. All of this comes from other human beings. So you have to care for others, give time for others, so that you receive love, appreciation, so and so. So we do have to give time for the family. So they say about 20%, I think. Then maybe the 10% was environment, good health, and good governance. Then the 20% they say have to give into the spiritual understanding. Spirituality we have to give. Because without spirituality, such a concept that we have been discussing today will not make sense. We will always be looking up the mountain, not the down. We're always thinking just because we are Porsche, we are very great. Actually, instead of thinking, instead of sometimes you should be, and when we are driving Porsche, we should be laughing at ourselves. What a funny world we are in. Today I'm conceptually driving Porsche, I'm very happy. 100 years ago I will be driving horse and I'll be feeling very VIP. How conceptual world this is. And we should be laughing at ourselves. While we are driving Porsche, we should be laughing at ourselves. How we can delude ourselves. You may be driving Porsche, you may be not, for what certain purposes. For example, even you may be enlightened or spiritual or whatever. But if you are a bank CEO or you're ambassador of the country, you cannot say, I'm a spiritual person and I will just walk to meet the other country's president. I'm a very spiritual, because that is the kind of norm in the material world. So you live by the rule of the material world if you need to. If you're living in a mountain, you don't need Porsche. But if you need to live by because of your job, because of the rules of the material world, you may or may not. But definitely the pride, the kind of, the misunderstanding that, the wealth, status, happiness is something that external. I don't think that should be there. So this is, I think, what I can remember. This is these are my own thoughts. Thank you very much.
To remain on stage. Now may we invite Jetsunma and Mrs. Woon and Ms. Ngee to begin the panel discussion. And now may I hand the time over to our moderator, Ms. Ngee. So please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Catherine, and it is indeed a great pleasure and a great honor for me to be here tonight with all the esteemed speakers, His Eminence, Jetsunma, and Tracey. I think this talk, the discussion on Buddhist perspective on material wealth is definitely very relevant to us in Singapore today. Especially right now, we're constantly discussing about, what is the best way to grow our economy, and how should we be measuring our own happiness, and should we be having a happiness index? And in Singapore, here's a place whereby material success and economic growth, is a place at the highest priority. We are in a place where mothers often tell our children, study hard, let's go to a good school, then you can get a high-paying job, and then you will be successful. So, it is definitely very interesting to have the speakers here tonight to talk to us about their perspective on material wealth and the spiritual wealth. To start the ball rolling, I will ask the 3 questions that the audience have voted, the 3 questions that have gotten the highest votes. The first question maybe to His Eminence. This is a question on spiritual development. You already have mentioned earlier on in your speech. So should spiritual development be placed above material pursuits? And can a spiritual master drive a Porsche or maybe a Lamborghini or Maserati? Asking whether Tracey should be speaking. She will have a chance.
Should spiritual development be placed as a material pursuit? I think so. When I was in my teens, one of my gurus or a teacher told me that in life, whatever happens, whatever ups and downs you go through, never give up spiritual practice. He told me that. And after some time, of course, I out of respect and of course, it's definitely it's only after a long time that it made a sense to me, because spiritual wealth is something that is not dependent on any other condition, not dependent on the market force, Dow Jones, and what is the latest fashion. It is very much dependent on the wisdom and compassion that we can develop within ourselves. For example, sense of relaxation about, of course, we should be dressed nicely, very fashionably dressed, definitely. Look the most beautiful, why not? Especially, just because you are Buddhist doesn't mean you have to look ugly. Definitely not. Especially if you are going to a temple, you should look the most beautiful, most smart, as offering to the Buddhas. And also as a good image for the Buddhism in general. Others say, I don't want to be a Buddhist, Buddhists are always like sloppy, like a hippie, I don't want to be a Buddhist, she might say. Definitely not. Very nicely you should be dressed. But at the same time, understanding that the concept of the beauty that I represent, or that I feel, it's very much a conceptual mind. What I find beautiful, what others find beautiful at this time may change differently. J-pop, K-pop, all of these. So not so kind of, serious about how nicely you are dressed, not jealous about it. Definitely, if you want to be wealthy, especially you're wealthy in order to make a difference to all the sentient beings, make a difference. Why not? Like Aung San Suu Kyi said in the movie, The Lady, she said, it's not the power that corrupts, it's the fear of losing power. In the hands of a great enlightened being, or let's say a bodhisattva, forget a bodhisattva, great person, wonderful person, power is nothing wrong. He or she will use it for the right purpose. Wealth is nothing wrong, it can be used for right purpose. So that is why, material wealth itself, I don't think there's anything wrong with having it, but the spiritual should be definitely there. So one day, maybe let's say we are beautiful for, 10 years, and then we do exercise, yoga, and Botox for another 10 years. So by 20 years, maybe till 30, 45, we can push it. If you're a man, maybe 55. After that, we are going to lose it. Then how are you going to deal with it? When you were beautiful, how proud you were, how truly you believe it really existed, you'd understand in your mind. How attached you were, as Jetsunma said. Or if you're wealthy, how truly you believe that wealth is something that exists externally rather than conceptual, individual or collective concept. Like I told you, from compared to people in the poor country, everybody, they will think your guys are very rich. Singaporean goes and tells somebody in Africa, I'm very poor, they will laugh at you. They say, what are you crazy? So it is very much a conceptual mind. So with this understanding, one day you become poor. If you're of course going too poor to the hungry, going to the hunger and starving, definitely that is pain. But let's say from 100 million you become $50 million. Does it really make sense with that much worry? Are you really that desperate? I don't think so. But if you don't know, then today the Dow Jones Index go up, very happy. Tomorrow 1-2 point go down, very stressed, in heart attack. Then there's something, and then the power, there's power, honor, all of these things. If you take the power things true, power is also very much illusioned. For example, you are VIP in your country, outside your country nobody knows you. Why are you VIP in that country? Because collectively people have kind of come to a conclusion that you are somebody. So you become somebody. Actually, I feel that every president and the important people, they know that. That is why you will find that most of the important people, they always have a lot of external things to kind of, to show the status of the power. For example, cars, the motorcade, the presidential seal. Because without these, like I said earlier, there's no wings, there's no halo around us to make anyone special. So you need this illusion to kind of, the grandeur to this. It is very much illusion that is being created. And it works very well also. So anyway, but if you believe in that spiritually, what your own creating of illusion of power, one day you lose power. Then many people who suddenly lose power, suddenly lose business, they can't handle it. They feel so ashamed of the society, what people will think, all of that. In the reality, one of my friends told me, she's not a Buddhist, she's a friend of mine. She said, you shouldn't worry too much about other people, what they're thinking about you. They're busy thinking about themselves. They have no time to worry about you. But they feel so something that then they kill themselves, suicide themselves, because that's true. Holding on the sense of that pride, honor, whatever. So definitely if you have that, spiritual wealth should be a priority, because that is something everlasting, will always be with you. And because of spiritual wealth, you enjoy your wealth more. You appreciate your wife, husband more, your country more, your wealth more. You will be more at peace, definitely, I think so. Priority should be spiritual wealth. Secondary wealth, material wealth. Definitely. Now in terms of driving Porsche or not, it depends on which jnana you ask. For example, the Theravada jnana, Theravada, according to Vinaya, strictly speaking, Vinaya, which is I think followed by Sri Lanka and Thailand and Burma, I'm not very sure, where in generally speaking, monks are supposed to go barefoot. They are supposed to go, the begging. They have to go and beg for the food. Not because they are poor. They have to go and beg for the food. But these terms of, the begging and all, these are not considered, you have to beg all your life. Even after you become enlightened, you have to beg. I don't think it means that. Maybe Buddha begged because to show us. But the reason why the monks are supposed to do like that is to develop humility. Because most people who drive Ferrari automatically come under the influence of illusion that they are special than others because they have Ferrari, they have Armani clothes, so and so. And some may not. Those who do not have like that, they don't feel proud. We cannot say that every rich man is a bad, every poor man is a humble and human, very nice, kind person. We can't say that. Depend on individual. Maybe there are millions of some rich people who are very humble, very down to earth. He uses his, who knows? You cannot say like that. That's what the moral of the Jetsunma's, the story was. King was very rich, but he has no attachment, so he burned the palace down in his mind. His guru he doesn't have a wealth, but he's attached to his begging bowl. And he was very upset. So whether you're upset to a begging bowl, your one suit of clothes, or whether you're attached to your 100 suit of clothes, attachment is same. pain is same. It's the same. So that's why, generally speaking, shall monks all go in Ferrari or not? Or, I will say in general, no. But individually, can we judge? To do that, you have to be able to read the other person's mind. That's why Buddha said, judge others only if you are like me. That means when you reach a Buddha, you can read other people's mind. What is that? How attached they are, with how much strong conceptual they are. Then you can judge them. You cannot do like that. Maybe in the monastery, the abbot can say, because there's a rule for generally you have to follow. But as individual practitioner, everybody is not allowed, as soon as somebody drives Ferrari, you are bad. Can we say that? We can't say like that. And Buddhist law, one thing we must remember, Buddhism is not a religion. Therefore, Buddha's laws are not the law of the country. For example, law of the country, if you break it, that's it. You are illegal, you are breaking the law. But the Buddha's laws are as a method to transform you. So as a method, there can be many methods. Theravada is Theravada method. Mahayana is Mahayana method. Theravada monks are not allowed to touch gold. Mahayana will say that if you have no sufficiency, for the sake of sentient being, you can touch the gold. Among the 10 negative deeds, the 3 mind you cannot do, but others you can do. Vajrayana will say, what is gold, what is diamond? Who says diamond is good? Actually, who says? Diamond doesn't say, I am special, I am precious. We human beings conceptualize, say, this is a diamond, very good. This is a stone, worth nothing. This is a money, very good. Money is what? Actually, it's a paper. What is credit card? Plastic. But we all agree to be valuable, so it becomes valuable. So Vajrayana will say more important, yes, important to give up if necessary. That depends on you. What kind of guy you are. For example, it's like a television, simply speaking. Some people are so addicted to computer and television, some of the children, you have to literally lock the computer away. Some people can watch the television, use the computer in a balanced way, even in a beneficial way. So for this, definitely you should not lock away the computer. So it is individually speaking, it differs from individual to individual. That is my view. If I made any mistakes, I apologize. So many learned monks and nuns are here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, the next question is for Jetsunma, and it is a question on how we should be spending our money wisely. Buddhism says that we should give whenever there is a need and without expecting any returns. But in reality, there are so many charities and causes that we cannot support them all. How can we give wisely and with the greatest benefit? And personally, I'd like to ask, how much should we give? There is a Tibetan story about a monk who saw an old man, starving old man, and he cut off his flesh to feed the old man. So, how far, how much should we be giving to charity?
I don't think that there's any written rule about this. In some Christian churches, and I think in Islam, it is said that one should give 10% of one's income to others in charity. But I don't think in Buddhism there's any specified amount. So I think that people should give what feels right for them. If you have lots of money, then you can afford to give more. If you, by giving and giving and giving to others, you are depriving your family, then maybe you should echo. Maybe this one's better. Is that better? I can hear an echo. Can you hear an echo? Anyway. So I think one has to use not only one's compassion, but also one's common sense and wisdom insofar as how much to give. And who to give for means to give to people that you personally feel you're interested in. Of course, there are 10 million charities, but you know, what speaks to you? What are you interested in? Some people like to give, like to orphanages or to hospitals or to schools. Other people like to give to the arts or to cultural programs, and there's no right and wrong. It's just what is of particular interest to the individual. But definitely it is very helpful to use one's wealth for benefiting others as well as oneself. And there's a great joy in giving. I mean, the people I know who are the most generous are often the most inwardly contented and happy people. And those who are frightened to give because if I give to them, what will I have for myself, are often the most unhappy and dissatisfied people. So of course it is very, what can you say? I mean, it's common sense, really. How much do we spend on ourselves? How much are we happy to give to others? Each one has to ask themselves. But we should remember that generosity is the first of the paramitas. It's the first of the qualities needed to be developed in order to become a Buddha. So these qualities such as generosity and ethics and patience and enthusiastic effort and then meditation and wisdom, it starts with generosity. Because I think the Buddha understood that, you know, once we learn how to open up our hands, that follows with a sense of opening up the heart. And even if we are not very wise, even if we cannot meditate, even if our ethics are a bit iffy, nonetheless we can learn to share with others and to be generous. And this is a way of learning compassion, of learning empathy, of learning kindness, of not always thinking only of me, but of extending ourselves to others. Not only in the sense of money, but in the sense of time and sympathy and understanding. This quality of generosity is an opening of the heart. And so it's very essential on the spiritual path, and it's one reason why all spiritual paths mention it very importantly, because no matter what level we may be at, we can always afford to share. So in this way, it's a very important quality for learning our interdependence with others. And stop ourselves being so totally self-absorbed.
Thank you, Jetsunma. All right, now this is a question for Tracey. Actually, two questions because there's a tie for these two questions. First of all, Tracey, perhaps you could share with us, how do you incorporate Buddhist teachings in your working life right now? And as I'm sure you know, Tracey works in Citibank, so incorporating Buddhist values in the banking career. So how do you do that? And the second question is, what can you advise young professionals about balancing spirituality and materialism when they are considering their various career choices?
Jetsunma is rolling her eyes because she realized that I'm totally ill-equipped to answer the two questions. I think I have to set the record straight here. Concept is evidence is a very important thing. First of all, I'm an absolute newcomer to Buddhism, believe it or not. As a child, I always remembered my parents going to the temple, praying, and they would always ask for study hard, pass your exams, and be good, and all the wonderful things, and they pray for that, and they say they will do all kinds of wonderful things if all the children were good and what have you. And I thought to myself as a young child, you know, this can't be right? I never thought that was something I wanted to grow up believing religion was. So I have been ignorant for years in my life. I first met Jetsunma last year. A very dear friend of mine actually invited me to a concert, and he said to me, by the way, there's going to be a very interesting person that's going to attend. And he wanted me to meet her, and he actually gave me 2 of her books. I was just about to get on a plane to New York, and I brought your 2 books with me. So I started reading In the Heart of Life, and I got to New York and I messaged my friend. I said, hey, this book is good, and he says, no, you should start with Cave in the Snow. No, I read the wrong book, so I read the other book first. And then, of course, I came back and I met Jetsunma. And I was so in awe, I didn't know what to say to her. And I told her this story about, you know, when I was young, about not understanding Buddhism, and this was the first time I'd read her books. And Jetsunma very kindly, very subtly said to me, oh, good. And she says, you know, normally when people read, they'll be lucky if they can remember 10%. That's being very lucky. I think she was very kind. She was trying to encourage me, because actually I've been trying to read her book again and again before tonight, thinking, you know, I haven't remembered enough. And then I was very fortunate to be invited to lunch, and I met His Eminence, and he made me feel very good, because he said, you know, if a doctor decides to help people by becoming a monk, that's a bad idea, because, you know, it takes 20, 30 years to be a monk. So I'm sitting here hoping that you all understand I'm neither a devout Buddhist or an aspiring nun, because I'm totally new to this. Actually, I don't know how Takan and Catherine convinced me to come up here in Rinpoche. When they first told me about this talk, and they said, you know, it's going to be Porsche and the Buddha, and I thought, uh-oh, because actually I do drive a Porsche. Not that he knows. But my husband drives it all the time. I get to drive it some of the time. I actually take a taxis most of the time, because I work. And I'm not attached to it. I thought very hard about the questions that Catherine had put up. And, you know, am I really happy with this? Actually, when I thought about driving, I said this to Jetsunma and His Eminence earlier. The happiest moment about driving actually was when I got my license 40 years ago, and I had a little Honda Civic. I was really happy. You know, the Porsche today, I get in the car, and it's a nice car, and it gets me to work. I can't sit here and tell you that, you know, I incorporate Buddhist teachings in my work, because, as I said, I didn't know much about Buddhism at the time. But when I first read Jetsunma's books, what resonated within me was all the things that I believed in sounded really logical and made sense. And as His Eminence said, you know, it's not really a religion, it's the beliefs and the principles and the practice. Sitting there and listening to you talk about, you know, looking up and looking down. When I started out in banking, honestly, I didn't know that was the career I wanted to be in. So I didn't choose it. I didn't choose it because I thought that would make me rich. Do I have time to tell this story when I became a banker? Takes 10 seconds. I was at a very rich man's house for Chinese New Year, because we go to his house every year for Chinese New Year. And I was standing in the soup queue, and he came along and he said to me, oh, so you've grown up, what are you doing? I said, oh, I just graduated, I'm practicing law. And he says, no, don't waste your time, you know, don't be a lawyer, be a banker. And I thought, okay, I don't know anything about banking, I'm a lawyer. And there was this great big fat man standing next to me, and he says, oh, come Nick, let me introduce you to my friend, you know, Tracey, give her a job. and he was a very rich man and so a very important client of this banker. So this man didn't have a choice; he had to give me his card. So don't forget, I'm 25 at the time. So I took his card and I was obligated to call him, right? Because this rich man asked me to call him. So I called him the next day, and he felt obligated to see me. So I went to see him, and he offered me a job. At the time, my husband and I were not married. And I said, shit, I'm going to have to go and see this man. So I showed up, and he decided to offer me a job. And I said to him, what do I do? Do I take the job? Which I did. And actually, when I became a banker, I found it was something I really enjoyed doing. But I never, when I became a banker, thought, wow, in 30 years' time, I want to be vice chairman. Actually, I never planned at any point in my career to think, okay, so now I want to be vice president, and director, and then managing director, and so on. It was really all about what I enjoyed doing. Working hard, being creative, thinking about how to solve problems. And the promotions came, and of course, along with it came the bonuses, and I am where I am, but I didn't plan for it as such. I will tell you what's important in banking. At the end of the day, if you don't have clients, you don't have business. If you don't have people working for you, you can't do it all yourself. You can't be a successful banker. If you don't have good bosses, you're not going to get you promoted, and you're not going to do it. But clients can only be your clients if they know that at the end of the day you act with integrity, you're honest, you think about your interests. People will only work for you if you're a good leader. You teach them about not to take credit for things that they didn't do. You have to lead by example. And so, as a banker and as a person, that's what I've always believed in, that you have to have the right values, which was why when I first read Jetsunma's books, I thought, oh, okay, so I have never understood Buddhism in the right way, and trying to learn more about spirituality. So to answer your long question, go back to your first question, happiness. I think happiness to me is actually acting in an honest way, to have friends, to care about people, to have integrity, to make sure that I give my best to my family, my children, to advise them to do the right things, teach them about honesty. I remember when my daughter was in her teens, and she and I had a fight, and one day, so I said, so, is there anything else you need to tell me? Because she had been, a bit naughty. And she said, okay, yeah, I do have one confession to make. Do you remember so-and-so's mother? I lied, and the mother helped me out. And I was so upset, because I had apologized to this lady for my behavior. I was upset with my daughter, and I thought to myself, I apologized to this lady who just lied to me to help my daughter. So I said to my daughter, I said, 2 things. Please don't ever let me meet this lady again, because I won't be able to talk to her. But I told my daughter, I said, if you ever do something wrong, I will never lie for you. I think to this day she's appreciated that. So I think in work it's the same. You have to be honest, and you have to have integrity, and then everything else comes. Right? People respect you, your clients like you, you do well, and you get promoted, and everything else comes along with it. So it's never about the money. It's actually about doing the right things, and everything else comes. And that's actually what makes me happy, that I've done the right things in my work and people, as opposed to sitting in a Porsche.
So I suppose to all the young people out there, honesty and integrity. So that would be your advice to the young people, honesty and integrity in any career profession they choose.
Well, I say this to my children all the time, that I think the only way you're going to be successful and good in your career is you have to be passionate about what it is that you do. Because if you have the passion, you'll be good at it, and if you're good at it, you'll be successful and everything else comes along. I'll tell this story. My son went to boarding school, and one day I had a call from his college advisor. My son at the time was applying to college, and the college advisor rang me and he said, you know, Mrs. Woon, I'm Mr. So may I ask what it is that you do? And I thought, oh, you know, am I in trouble? So I said, well, I'm a banker. I said, what's the problem? He said, I've been trying to advise Michael about which college to apply to, and your son said, whatever. He said at the time, he was 17, he told the teacher, he says, I don't know what I want to do, but whatever it is, I don't want to do what my mother does. Because she doesn't have a life. So I had to ring my son up and I said, son, why did you say that? He said, yeah, Mom, you know, when we go on holiday, you know, you have a mobile phone, you've got your laptop, and you know, you have your little black book, and you know, how do you think you can have a life with us? And I was only then that I had to explain to him that, did he ever think about when I'm working, I actually enjoy my work and it's not hard work. So he was a bit doubtful until I said to him, think about you and your computer games, you know, you love your computer games and you can't stop. Well, it's a bit like that for your mother. And he always says he can't remember this story.
So he's not a banker now.
Be passionate about what it is that you want to do, because if you don't have the passion, you'll never be good at what you do.
Thank you, Tracey. Okay, this next question came through the telephone voting. This is actually a question for His Eminence. His Eminence shared earlier about looking up and looking down, and I believe this is good to be happy and contented, but would this lead to complacency if we just keep looking down? And if yes, how do I counteract this? Before I pass the mic to His Eminence, may I ask who asked this question? Yay, you've gotten the prize. And just to encourage people to ask more questions, you know, whoever asks a question that gets read out, you will get a book signed by His Eminence. Otherwise, you know, you could also raise your hands and there will be a mic passed on to you. So you could either email, SMS, or you could raise your hands and we will pass the mic to you.
Generally, first I think we have to define why do we want success. Success by itself doesn't make sense. Success has a purpose. What is the success for? So if we, probably I will think that we want success because we believe that success will give us happiness. So if we have to prioritize between happiness and success, surely I will feel that happiness has to be given priority, because that is the result that we are hoping for. So when we look down a little bit, we feel happy about where we are in life. Yet if we still choose to be, let's say we have reached the position of the managing director, and we should be enjoying that position also, where you reach your family. So that and if you want, you can go up to the chairman. But if you cannot enjoy being the status of the managing director, then probably when you reach the chairman, probably you will not be that happy also. But it will involve a lot of sacrifice to reach up there. Health, time, family, so and so. So it really depends on what you want. And similar like this, I was asked a question by, because in Bhutan, when I was going to schools, we talk about don't be jealous, don't be proud, so and so. So one student asked me, said that if I'm not jealous, it means I'm not competitive in my education, in my studies. So if I'm not competitive, that means I will not excel. We are supposed to thrive on, can you all hear me? We are supposed to thrive on competition. That's why we need to be jealous in order to be well educated or do well in exam. So, of course, I was a little bit stumped for a moment because I myself have not gone through the school and we are not pressured that much in terms of our education. So my answer to her was that when we are being driven to success, we can be driven either by a sense of jealousy or a sense of responsibility to others, to the world, to the family, to your country, so and so. For example, if you go to Bhutan, you will see many monasteries, top of the mountain, where you have to walk 3 hours in the car. And that is nowadays. In olden days, entire you have to walk on them. And 2-story, 3-story mountains. So I will say that in terms of accomplishment, building a skyscraper nowadays, and building a monastery at that time probably took same, if not more effort. So in terms of success, these masters were very successful. They built the skyscraper long time. So that also took effort, dedication, concentration, commitment. But the commitment is not fueled by jealousy or competition. But the commitment is fueled by a sense of responsibility, sense of compassion, wish to make a difference in others' life. It can equally be a driving force. Driving force doesn't necessarily have to be a negative. I may be quite naive, but I kind of envision sometimes, because when I read in magazines sometimes, and in the companies, I believe that people are given incentive, financial incentive to do well. You have worked hard, we'll give you a bonus. But I feel sometimes that even whether it is in the companies and all, I don't know how it. I've never worked in a company. I just read a lot. I read a lot. So Madam will probably know more. You guys know more. But I feel that equally strong incentive can be if we are respected, if our work is appreciated. Even though we may be very low, somebody like a janitor, I don't think we should be looked down upon. Because janitor perform very important. If all the toilets are blocked, what will the chairman do? Where will he go? So he's also very important, the janitor, In big opening ceremony, if all the toilets are blocked, very embarrassing. Tomorrow it will come out a headline. So everybody in the company, I feel, if they are respected, if their work appreciated, spoken with a kindness, when there's criticism comes with the respect, explanation, not with the harsh word, hatred, all of that. I also think that, that we are human beings. We are very much emotional beings, actually. I feel that you will definitely feel part of that company. Feel the care to work harder, to be part of that company, because you are respected, care, and that can be equally like a bonus. You may be giving bonus, but you are scolded, you are disrespected, shouted out by public, I don't know. If I ever worked, I will definitely not work for that incentive. So that is my view. What's the question? Complacency, yes.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions from the floor?
Can you all hear me? Hi, my name is Sally. I'm asking two questions. One is on behalf of my Gyalwa brother who is not here, but I think that it will be good to get an answer for him. He works as a job agent, so his job is to match companies and people who are looking for jobs. So basically the companies hire him to look for individuals to fill positions in a company. And because I had a conversation with him recently, I was encouraging him to take the 5 precepts, and he said he can take all except the one on lying, and I said why? He said in his line of work, he has to tell lies. And I asked him, what do you mean? He said that frequently he faces situations like a candidate is late for work, and then the person will call him and say, oh, I woke up late today. So he has to lie to his client, the company, and say, and make an excuse for the candidate. And if he told the truth, which is the candidate woke up late, it's likely that the candidate would not get hired, or the company will not consider this person. In a sense, his business would not run very well if he actually told the truth in such situations. I didn't really know how to advise him beyond telling him that you need to find a skillful way to tell the truth. So this question is somewhat related to the category 2 question, the number 6, what should one do when we are asked in our work to do something that's not in line with Buddhist teachings? So I would like all of the 3 speakers to give their point of view on this question. The second question is my own, which I guess would be addressed to Jetsunma and His Eminence. Just now, His Eminence, I think it was His Eminence who said that how much to give up or control, as in with regards to our things, it actually depends on the individual. Like for example, if someone is very addicted to computer games, maybe his mother will have to lock the computer in order to stop him. My question is, what happens if you have come to the point where you have already given up the physical thing already, done the most extreme, kept yourself far away from it, but you still feel a craving for that thing, or it could be a hobby or anything which basically you're attached to. Then how do you reduce and completely remove that attachment, even when you have already done the maximum possible, which is to give up the very thing and stay away from it? Thank you.
Thank you. Mei Ling, would you like to give a book to the lady? Even though she asked 2 questions, she only get 1 book. I shall pass the mic first to Tracey. Tracey, would you like to comment about integrity at work, telling white lies? And then you can pass the mic to Jetsunma.
I've woken up late for meetings before, very important meetings, and I show up and I say to the client, sorry, I'm so embarrassed to say I overslept. I have not lost a mandate because I've overslept. Actually, to me, oversleeping is a pretty harmless thing. It happens to everybody. And I think people are a lot more forgiving than you think. I think it'd be worse if you didn't say you overslept and you said something else, and eventually they did find out that you did and you couldn't say it. I've always believed that honesty is the best policy, because when you tell one lie, you have to tell the next to cover the next, and then very soon you forget. And sooner or later you get caught up. And that's what I've always taught my children. I think on the question of addiction, at the end of the day, it's self-discipline, and we all have to learn self-discipline. I have 3 children, so I can tell you, being a mother is not easy, and you just have to encourage and believe that they'll get there one day.
Yes, I endorse what's just been said. I think that if one starts making too many ethical compromises, it becomes a habit. And it's a downward slide, so to speak. One thing we do and everything, oh, that's not so important, and it was for a good reason, and then somehow or other next time it's that much easier, and then much easier, and before you know it, oh, your integrity has gone to the wall. So as much as possible, I think it's good to keep to ethical standards as much as possible. As she says, often if one admits one's faults, people are much more tolerant than one imagines, because they all know that they've had the same problems themselves. So yes, I think it's good to keep integrity as much as possible in the ethical field, because otherwise compromises begin to take over your life, and that's not a good thing. As far as addictions are concerned, our underlying problem is our cravings. Craving comes in many forms. If it's not one thing, it's something else. And so it's helpful, first of all, as you were saying, that you have to be conscious. We have to be aware of when these feelings come, and to recognize we have a choice. Just because we have a deep craving to do something doesn't mean we have to do it. We can say no. And gradually, as we say no and get used to saying no, and with some humor, the craving begins to lessen, and we recognize that we are in control of the situation instead of being controlled by our particular craving. In the meantime, perhaps even we can distract ourselves by doing something else. So that we're not sitting there biting our fingernails. But basically, I think the important thing really is to recognize that we have to be the masters of our life, and that we cannot be the slaves to our various longings and addictions and cravings. Really, we have to be in control. Because if we are in control, we will feel satisfied. And if we give in, we will just feel regret. And if we remember that, then we can build up. It's like picking up weights, you start with small weights and you get heavier weights, and then your muscles become strong. So our inner muscles of our own, self-discipline become strong by a practice. So regard it as a wonderful practice to make yourself inwardly strong and not weak and wimpy, right? So don't worry. It's okay. Everybody, our nature is to have these cravings and desires. This is what we're working with. So when there's something very obvious, then we should be grateful, because it's something which we can really get to work on. It's not insidious, it's very obvious, isn't it? And that's how we get strong inside. So don't worry, be happy.
I also, of course, agree with what Tracey and Jetsunma said. And in terms of negative karma, definitely lying is a negative karma, especially when it is for oneself. Then there is no excuse about it not being a negative karma. And as Jetsunma said, one or two, and Tracey said, one or two times it might work. But sometimes after too much, whether it's individual lie or whether it's a company lie, once you lose the trust of the world, trust of your client, actually economically also it doesn't make very much sense. Some people, when they think that they should be a, they're like say, very good speaker or very kind of good at talking with the people, especially to them when you meet the important people and all of that. Some people think that You should be very smart means you should be very convincing. And convincing is, you should lie and add up to make it convincing. And it might work 1 or 2 times. But after some time, people will know that you always lie. So the one day you tell the truth also, they will not believe you. And if you go on telling the truth, of course, but truth has to be spoken with wisdom. And the wisdom I feel the most important is, by my saying this truth, will it hurt the other person? Will it harm other things? If it will, then you don't need to lie, you can remain silent. If somebody is looking awful in the morning, you don't need to say, you're looking awful today. It is the truth, sure. But there's no need to mention that. Maybe, you don't need to mention that. Maybe she's looking awful but very slim. You can just say, you're looking very slim. That's a wisdom. Why hurt other people's feeling? But in general, if you're truthful, first people might not believe you, especially when you're in the business, when you're meeting very important people, most important rich people or politicians, ministers, they are usually doubtful. They're very suspicious. They've been fed with a lot of lies. So they might not believe what you're saying. But 2 times, 3 times, 1 year, after some time, they believe whatever you say. And they will respect, because you do speak the truth. Now that I'm talking on individual level. But just because we cannot speak truthful, if somebody says, I can't be a Buddhist, because Buddha will look down upon me, I think that's wrong. Because in the Buddhist teaching, Buddha is not a god that judges. Buddha is a teacher who is full of unconditional compassion, without judgment. So even if you are a liar, a cheater, it's not like Buddha will be like, don't come here, I hate you. Buddha will not judge. Our judgment, good things, bad things happen because of the karma, result of our action. Not because you are liars, so Buddha will send from up there some stone on your head. Some unfortunate. No, not like that. That's why Buddha said, if that is the case, Buddha is so compassionate. Even if you're doing bad, he will pick us up and throw up there. Whatever we do, he will forgive us. But so sadly, Buddha said he cannot. I can show you the path, but it's up to you. Respect the karma and the consequence. For example, among the 5 precepts, there are many precepts in the Buddhist story about a man who couldn't. Somebody went up to the desert and they found one man. During the day, he's enjoying so much food and wine and drink women. In the night, these beautiful women were becoming snakes and eating him. And then later when they asked Buddha, why is that? Because there was one, butcher man. He couldn't keep, he was killing all the time. So the one Arahat, told him that even if you cannot observe vow during the day, at least observe during the night. So because karma is a very fair. So during the day he killed animals, during the night he observed the vow. So during the night he had a wonderful time. And during the day he had to suffer. Because karma is very, very fair. Karma is so fair actually, that is why people who are doing bad things also, they can be successful. But they may be doing other good things. They may have done other. People who are doing good things now, but they may do other bad things. Or in their past. Karma is very fair. Karma is not like human society. Human society is, even if you've been very good, perfect for 10 years, you do one mistake, you're down. Karma is not like that. For 10 years you have been a good boy. Today you make a mistake. For this mistake, there is a negative result. For 10 years you've been a good boy, good girl. For that there is a positive result. It's a very fair karma. And Buddha will not judge you. So if you cannot take 5%, take 4%. If you cannot take 1, especially the most important is the wish to harm others. That is the most important, the first precept that we should take. As a Buddhist, what's our value? Every being want happiness, do not want suffering. So the first thing we have to talk about is not harming others. That is the first value. That value we must have. After that addition, there are 3. The monks have 250 vows. Nuns have, the Bhikshuni have 300 something vows. And Vajrayana has few millions. Up to you. It's an individual path. So, that is thing. But Mahayana, there's a twist. Mahayana, you can lie if it's for the benefit of others. There's no selfishness at all. But you have to lie with the wisdom. For example, let's say that there's somebody is about to get killed. Someone about to go shooting somebody. Or somebody's, they've lost a nuclear bomb, let's say, or formula for a nuclear bomb. And you know where it is. If somebody says, can you find a way? I don't think you should be truthful. Definitely you should lie. Oh, definitely you should. Oh no, I don't see it. I don't see that person. He's gone. Definitely you should lie. For the benefit of selflessly. But you should not take that as an excuse to lie all the time, even for others. Because sometimes lying for others harms them rather than benefit them. For example, somebody is lazy, you lie for them. Let's say you say you're Mahayana. But by lying, so is it something, in case of emergency, that person couldn't help? Or are you encouraging that person throughout his life to be a lay person? Maybe today you are there to lie for him, but what if you join another company, nobody will lie for him, but it's still habit of the late is always there. So maybe, compassion is the lying, but compassion has to be with the wisdom. And what was the second question? How to addiction? Yes. Well, that also, I think it depends on the, like external renunciation part. It does depend on different yanas. Theravada, Mahayana have different views. But from the Vajrayana point of view, before external renunciation, one will probably say internal renunciation is more important. What is meant by internal renunciation is that, from my point of view, I feel that maybe I have not really read in the scriptures or anything but it's my kind of experience, understanding. I feel that we will truly become a spiritual practitioner from the day we are 100% convinced that happiness and sadness, rich and poor, is not existing there, but it is projection of my mind. Until we have that, for example, let's say there was one example that I use usually is that about privacy and loneliness. For example, there are certain stages in our life, certain times we want privacy, we want freedom. So that time people are calling us, our mother, our friends calling us, where you are, what you're doing. We hate it. We feel so unhappy about it. Because, and then maybe after our mothers, our family, they get the message, don't call us, don't bother me, I want my privacy. And they stop calling us. 1 month very good, 2 months very good, 3 months, 4 months, start to feel a bit lonely. Nobody cares about me. Whether I exist or not, also nobody makes a difference. Then you start to feel lonely and wish that they will call you. So probably, but maybe embarrassed to say, because 3 months ago I had a big fight, telling not to call. So if you do say also, your probably parents, friends will be confused. Sometimes they call, sometimes they don't call. You don't know what to do. So of course, how you choose your life different, but I will say that if you can understand that, and that at a certain period, we have a concept which says happiness is privacy, happiness is freedom. At that time, if people call, we are very unhappy. By a certain stage, our conceptual mind maybe is moved by a movie, family movie, I don't know, whatever concept. You suddenly feel lonely, you have lost your job, I don't know, whatever. And the conceptual mind is that to be loved, to be cared for, to be known that you make a difference is happiness. At that time, if people call you on the right time, you're very happy. So that if you can understand that even happiness itself, even though it looks so real, pain so real, is also conceptual. It doesn't exist as it appears to be. If you have that understanding deep in your heart, from that time I feel you will be a genuine spiritual practitioner. Maybe not good, maybe not perfect, direction will not go wrong. Because from that day onwards, you always look for the solution within you. And you will practice, you will be interested to do Dharma. Dharma transforms my mind. And my mind is the source of everything. So I will do Dharma, I'll do practice. Nobody will tell me to do. Why? Because I want to be happy. happy and sadness is within myself. So you will definitely want to. Until that conviction has come, maybe we can be a Buddhist, we can accumulate karma, we can do, but true spiritual practitioner, I don't think so. Because, deep in our heart, we say, my happiness is there. My happiness in that person, that country, that job. Of course, on the side I do Dharma, maybe because I'm born into it. Maybe it's very interesting topic. It makes me feel good to do some chanting. I accumulate little karma, why not? There's nothing wrong with it. I'm not saying it's bad. Truly, are you on the spiritual path? That is, another question. And as far as Vajrayana path, we say desire doesn't have to be rejected. Desire has to be realized. Desire has to be left without grasping. So desire is not necessarily kind of chucked out, open view. You can't anyway. It is a mind, but it has to be understood and realized. Then the material things are not too bad, and you will not be addicted anyway. You can use it in a very comfortable, relaxed way if you need to, or you stay in a mountain. It's up to you. If you don't have the understanding, even in the mountain you can get attached. My teacher told me that in the mountain also, I don't think he did, but just to teach us, he used to get attached about, wow, my cave is quite big. Very dry, not wet. And there's a big slab, very comfortable. I hope other people will not use that. This is my nice sofa, stone sofa. They're the same. So that is my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. I think there is time for just one last question. Quite a few SMSs have come in, but I think I would choose this one. It's not directly related to wealth, but I suppose, when we are chasing after our material wealth, sometimes we do get hurt. So the question is, if someone dear to us has betrayed us or has hurt us deeply, how do we let go of this hurt? With genuine compassion? Or, as people say, time will heal. But what can we do during this healing period? Perhaps I direct this question to Jetsunma. Oh, by the way, who asked this question? Please raise up your hand. Here. Mei Ling.
Well, in Tibet, in the 11th century, came a great Bengali scholar called Atisha. And among the many things which he did for helping to reintroduce Buddhism into Tibet was to set down a group of teachings which are called, in English, the mind training of the Lojong. And basically, these teachings are dealing with how we take everything which happens to us onto the path. How we don't reject anything, and especially how we take the difficulties which we meet with in our daily life as part of our training. How to really overcome things which normally we would regard as an obstacle, and recognize this as a great opportunity for our spiritual advancement. And one of the categories of this is dealing with people who hurt us, who do things which really make us feel very sad, who often people that we have helped ourselves, that we've cared for, and they turn around and do something really mean to us or something which really hurts us very much. And our normal reaction is to feel just that. To feel hurt, to feel bitter, to even wish to retaliate, or at least to consider this as being a betrayal. And so the Lojong teachings say, no, this is actually our great opportunity. We should, instead of seeing these people as someone who hurt us or even as an enemy, we should recognize that actually they're great spiritual friends, because they are teaching us how to take this painful feeling and use it on the path as a means of opening up with compassion and understanding, forbearance and patience. These qualities are extremely important on the spiritual path. We all need them. But normally when people are very nice to us, if we're surrounded by people who are kind to us, who are loving to us, who do and say to us what we want them to do and say, that is very pleasant, but we don't learn anything. It's very easy to be loving towards people who are lovable. But the challenge comes to feel love and compassion and patience towards people who are obnoxious. And so therefore, when people do things to us which hurt us, instead of feeling resentment or hurt, we should feel gratitude. Because this is going to make us inwardly much stronger. And we are, it's like if we want to develop muscles, as I said, if I pick up the paper up and down, this is very nice, but I'm not going to get any muscles from doing that. I have to pick up heavy weights. It's like if you go to a gymnasium, you have to exercise by pulling heavy weights. Likewise in life. Our life is not here just to have a good time. Our life really is to learn lessons, to learn how to develop, how to gain qualities which up to now we have been unable to gain. And so therefore these circumstances and situations which come to us in our life which really challenge us, that's where we can call up our inner reserves, our inner qualities and energies. And so it's therefore, as I say, instead of feeling resentful, we should feel grateful. Because they are the means by which if we respond in a positive way, we can learn a tremendous amount. And later on, looking back, we can feel gratitude for that opportunity to advance and to become more inwardly strengthened in our genuine love and compassion. We cannot just feel love for people who are lovable. We have to learn how to love all beings. And so in this way, as I say, this is our opportunity for taking everything onto the path, not discarding anything. And so that, I think, is the attitude to take, to be grateful rather than resentful for whatever people do to us.
As I was saying earlier, Buddha in his infinite kindness had given so many methods, so many teachings that if I had been speaking first, I probably would have said what Jetsunma said. But since Jetsunma had already shared a wonderful way of thinking, I would like to speak a little bit differently. But same, yet at the same time same. I fully agree with what Jetsunma said. And that is a very correct way. And I would like to say, add on to that a little bit, is that such ways can be dealt according to our level. Different yanas have different methods. According to our own practice level, there are different ways of handling it. Vajrayana way of handling will be related to the story that I would like to share. I don't know how accurate the story is, but there's a joke among us, about the story is that I think maybe at the beginning of the century, British sent an expedition. I think Colonel Young I can't remember the name, sent to Tibet for exploration. So when the British first went to Tibet, Tibetans have a prediction that one day, some foreign devils or some outsiders will come. There's some prediction in the Tibet. So they are very afraid of the foreigners. especially the Westerners, the Tibetans have never seen yellow-haired, green eye, so scared. So they have this much with the demons that maybe Guru Padma Sambhava went to subdue. So in the Himalayan culture, it is Tibet, Bhutan, is when you want to chase our evil spirit, we clap like that. So all the villagers gathered on the ridge above and then did a prayer and clap. And the British soldiers felt so happy. They thought, oh my God, so welcoming. Can I be welcomed? Because in the conceptual mind of the Western people, clapping is a positive sign. And in the Asian, I don't know, Himalayan definitely is chase away. And then later when the British were, I think, invited by the government and they went to officials, then the Himalayan and Tibetan people started to show them respect. So the Tibetans showed them their tongue. Then the British got very upset. They are showing their tongue to us. Such a ignorant manner. Not a gentleman at all, these guys. But from the Tibetan side, they were showing respect. So the story of what we have to get from this is, what is right and wrong is also very much conceptual idea that is defined by society, individually, collectively. It is very much also not really existing there. So Vajrayana practitioner will, rather than getting so much caught up in the conceptual, he or she will relax in that whatever the nature of emotion and understand that concept doesn't exist that strongly. But that is, I just wanted to share the Vajrayana view because I am a Vajrayana practitioner. But I'm not saying that, I can do that, I am that highly learned, because these things take a lot of time. But at least if you don't understand, then there's no start at all. We'll never reach there, that's for sure. If you take the first step, you'll never reach the 2000, journey of 2000 league starts with the first step. There's Chinese saying. And if you are truly Mahayana strong practitioner, Mahayana teaches that Mahayana as well as Vajrayana is part of Mahayana. Skillful method is different, but it is a part of Mahayana. Philosophy-wise, there's no difference. Skillful method, visualization, puja, all a little bit different. So as a Vajrayana and Mahayana practitioner, all the beings are our mother sentient beings. Right? And they've done us extreme kindness. So maybe let's say somebody gives us a boxing in our face. We'll be very upset. How dare he? But if you truly believe that they are your mother and father, and then they've done so much kindness to you, compared to them, one boxing is nothing. Compared to their kindness, this little bit is nothing. For example, our parents scold us, we can take it because we love them. If ordinary people show a finger, we cannot. Why? Because we appreciate and love our parents. So if you truly have the Mahayana view on Mother Sentient Being, definitely it is much easier to forgive others. And then lastly, one more from Shantideva, he says that when people are so much controlled by the desire that they even kill themselves, that shows that when people harm us, it's not like they really have a choice. So much controlled by the desire, negative emotion, that they even kill themselves. Usually, most precious to us, ourselves and our body. Yet when they're controlled by unfulfilled desire, unfulfilled wishes, they even kill themselves. So much strong are the emotions. So when they can kill themselves into their infinite, why not us? For example, look at ourselves. When we get angry, do we say, let's get angry now? We don't. Uncontrollably we get angry. We say things which we don't mean hurt others. Similarly, uncontrollable other beings harm us. They are also under the same influence that we are in. That's why sometimes, when people are getting married, they ask for blessing and all that. So they say, what advice do you have? I say, the best advice is that true love doesn't exist. Because to consider the true love is very much, I think, the movie maker. True love is perfect husband, perfect wife. Then they'll be Buddha. without any fault. That is the definition of the Buddha. The male and female Buddha getting married. Wow. Then definitely it will be a perfect, true love. How can that be? We human beings are imperfect. We are not enlightened. That's why we need to practice Dharma. So I always say the best advice is don't believe in true love. Rather believe that true love is when two imperfect people accept each other's fault, has a room in them, a room to forgive, should be like this room. So in this room, already the room is huge. Even 10 people more come, already can fit. So you already are prepared that we are all not perfect. I am not perfect, you are not perfect. The room of understanding, forgiveness is already there. So when other people make mistakes, you already are prepared to forgive, even before they make mistake. Because you know we are all imperfect. And when two imperfect people accept their imperfection, that is maybe true love. And then you will probably have a good marriage. That's what I say. I haven't been married, so I don't know.
Well, thank you, speakers. Thank you for a very enjoyable and very lively discussion. And the audience, you have been a wonderful audience as well. So the main takeaway for me, at least, is that there is no inherent conflict in being a Buddhist and striving for material wealth, as long as we can keep to the Buddhist precepts, and as long as we grow our wealth and we have our correct mental attitude of non-attachment, and remember to have compassion for others. So may I have another round of applause for our speakers? Thank you very much.